Congratulations. You're very welcome.
Okay. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Hello, and welcome. Thank you for joining and being a part of this closing event. Before we get going, I want to do a little housekeeping and set the agenda for tonight. So I'll start with a little introduction, bless you, about our organization and share about the speakers. Then we'll begin with readings by members of the Fortune Society Arts community here, which I'm so excited that you're all here. And then we'll segue into a short conversation between artist Jenny Polak and immigration attorney Lauren Schusterman. And then at the end, we'll have a collective reading of Daniel Kelly's text, which is featured in these works here. So without further ado, Artists Alliance Inc. cultivates art practices that challenge the way we experience ourselves, our communities, and our world through three core initiatives: LES Studio Program, Chibritos Gallery, and our Public Works Program. So you are currently seated in Jenny Polak's exhibition, Labor Markets. And she is a former LES Studio Program resident. So Jenny's exhibition is all about labor. The labor that keeps us fed, clothed, sheltered, and moving, and the people whose efforts are rarely seen or fairly compensated. So just a little bit about the speakers. So Jenny Polak's large-scale interventions in public space and intimate subversions of domestic design highlight and transform unequal social relations. Fueled by her work in architecture, family history of migration, and collaborations with directly impacted community members, she has created site-responsive, community-engaged projects for Socrates Sculpture Park, MoMA PS1, Concerned Citizens of Hobart, Indiana, the Center for Arts and Public Life, Chicago, Griffith International Sculpture Garden in Rome, New York, Exit Arts, and the Lower East Side Tenement Museum. Since 2020, she has worked with members of the Fortune Society, people rebuilding their lives after incarceration, co-creating artworks that give a platform to their experience. Welcome. Lauren Schusterman is an immigration lawyer based in New York City. After graduating from Michigan Law in 2020, she joined Make the Road New Jersey as an immigrant justice court fellow. Since then, she has continued to represent clients in a variety of immigration matters, including but not limited to asylum, human trafficking, and special immigrant juvenile status. And last but certainly not least, the Fortune Society's mission is to support successful reentry from incarceration and promote alternatives to incarceration. Fortune's Creative Arts Program supports the educational, emotional, and cultural development of individuals impacted by the criminal justice system through creative writing, spoken word, video production, animation, visual arts, music, and theater. So join me in welcoming all of our speakers tonight. And then I'm just going to bring up Lauren to be the MC for the reading portion. So come on up. Thank you.
Indeed. Thank you, Yanni. And thank you, Cucifrito Gallery, for allowing us, and Jamie, the Fortune Society, for allowing us the space and place to share. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to silence, and for those that can't be here, and for those suffering and who need our voice to be their message. And so let's just take a moment of silence for those people that need us. And like I said, we're gonna hear a collective of artists here. Some of us, our job, well, all of us, I say, our purpose and our job is to move you. And so you might hear something that may upset you. You may hear something that might anger you. You might hear something that make you sad. But I believe, that's our job as artists, to move you. So if those emotions come out, then I feel like we did our job. So, I'm gonna start off with a brother whose collection is here today that we're gonna be celebrating, along with Jenny. DK, can you come up and start us off, please?
Thank you, Marvin. I'm really stoked to be here tonight. I'm really excited to be in the presence of such formidable brains, formidable minds, artists who use their artistry to create spells. I'm honored to be in the presence of poets who have awesome vocabularies and awesome ways that they can use the words that they choose to move you. I'm so thankful for that centering that you, Marvin, allowed us, which makes my job easier. Because now, tonight, I want to introduce you guys to a piece I wrote that's really simple. If you look at it, it's really simple. If I may, tonight's piece for me is called Constrictor. Constrictor. I just want to hope. The tension is released in each exhalation. Funny how it seems like just a little death can bring me back to life through the PSIs you apply. After I've waged war with the world atop an iron horse, my shield settles to the earth in quiet submission. I'm tired, undefeated, yet depleted, wanting to settle in the healing of silence and stillness. Descend on your weary warrior. Wrap me in an embrace, in a constrictor's embrace. Resuscitate me with an affection well placed. Tight enough to chip a chakra, yet realign my mental space. This world is only yay big, yet you possess an intercontinental influence within the enclosed space of your arms. So, arm me with your grace. Fortify my will to dispel the angst, after which my lips whisper a word of thanks. Constrictor. Woo!
DK, Daniel Kelly, y'all, give it up for the all right. Sometimes when I get writer's block or I get through that mood where I don't really feel like writing and I hear DK speak, I'm like, all right, I gotta step it up. It's not a game, so DK, I appreciate you, bro. We're gonna keep it moving. And this brother is the seventh wonder of the world. Let's give it up for my man, Hilton Webb, y'all.
I'm gonna sit because I'm old.
Absolutely.
So, as we know, context is everything. So, as I was talking to Jamie a little earlier, is I come down here regularly to go to Regal Theater in the corner. And when I come down here, I always come into the market and stop at Sweet Treats and get a coffee and a piece of cake or something. And I haven't been back here since I was this big. And the last time I was here wasn't this building, but my mother used to bring me here all the time. on the weekends, and she'd shop. She'd come get the live chickens because they would actually have a kosher market where you pick your chicken, they kill it, pluck it, and put it in a bag for you. So it's kind of an interesting synergy to be back here in this creative space. And this piece is called, its original title was An Inmate at Work, and it was published about 20 years ago in the Pequod in New York University Literary Magazine. And since Jenny's thing is about work, this is the only piece that I had or create something new, and I couldn't create, so I repurposed this. And it's a little long, it's not the E long, but it's a little longer than long. Those of you who know E knows to get that joke. So here we go. I am a worker, a single mother who graduated from Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, magna cum laude, and who was also a worker raised me. She raised me to believe in the simple pleasure and devout honor to be found on the completion of a job well done while attaining A's in school as the only acceptable option. I'm going to take the glasses off. From an early age, around 6, it was my job to scrub the little 1-inch black and white tiles that made up the bathroom floor in our second floor brownstone apartment in do or die Bed-Stuy. When I grew older, Mom bought a washing machine for her uniforms, which I wasn't allowed to use. She explained in her indomitable way that before I could use the brand new washing machine, I had to learn how to effectively use a scrub board and octagon soap. This is also why I had to be on my tiny little knees scrubbing those tiles up close and personal, because with a mop, I was too far from the dirt to see it. I explained this so you might better understand my simplistic outlook on work in general and work in prison specifically. Prison's correctional premise is to teach the value of work to the incarcerated. In reality, it forces the consummate skill of avoiding work. The range of jobs in prison runs from porter, man with a mop and a broom, and general gopher, to clerk, mess hall worker, laundry, and commissary worker, to the elite workers, those in industry, making the most money and being exploited the most. Why exploited? It's simple. You do the same job as a free person and you are paid a maximum of 45 cents an hour, which, trust me, is a far cry from a livable wage, but fits nicely into the confines of the 13th Amendment, which statutorily allows slavery for the prison population. Work behind the wall mirrors work in the real world in that responsibility, the offloaded Puritan work ethic, and initiative are the watchwords to success. However, in prison, work is always a program. And because of this, civilians, guards, and most prisoners do as little work as possible while loudly complaining about how the system is turning everyone into a mindless automatons. See, if work is just a program, all that matters is attendance, resulting in little check marks next to your name on proper reports that can be sent to Albany. Quality of work, loyalty to the job, and fairness to yourself and fellow workers does not apply here. If you happen to have any of these sterling qualities, keep them to yourselves. There isn't any point in doing a job quickly and more efficiently when all that's required from you is to shut the fuck up, be still, show up, and support the status quo. I won't pretend to have all the answers. Well, actually I do. But I realize the necessity for tacit cooperation and for a functional system therapeutic approach to work in prison. Does that mean I'm not getting valuable training in the vaunted work ethic, which I'll need on the streets, assuming a guy with over 20 years in prison and a BS degree can even get a job? They're denying a person in their 20s with a doctorate? Fortunately, the Protestant work ethic was both etched and beaten into my DNA and embedded in the marrow of my bones. The reasons I work are simple. I can't escape my mother's voice in my head. I need the money and the human desire to feel that I'm contributing to the world. In other words, what I do has value and therefore I have value. This, of course, in prison paints me as a lackey, a slave, an Uncle Tom, to others whose main job is rewarding work while taking credit for someone else's cause. I remember those little black and white tiles vividly. I had a bucket, a rag, and a scrub brush, and a small soft towel for my tender knees. I joined in battle with those tiles, and my mother's wisely allowed me to fail. Her solution to failure was to do it again and again and again and again until you got it right. There were many things that my mother might have done wrong in raising me, mostly because all new parents make mistakes. But she taught me how to do a job well, simply because it is the way it should be done. Prisons are filled with people who have never worked a real job a day in their lives, including the COs guarding you. Most have never been in the military, never gone home at the end of the week with a paycheck in their pockets. They are people who can't see the value of work, and in prison there is no one to teach them. Eventually these skills learned behind these walls of woe and razor wire of regret, along with unfallen tears and transitory fears, will be brought to the world outside. The skills of lying with conviction, backstabbing with greater efficacy, and avoiding the job and taking full credit for another's work. The main work done in prison should be convicts working on themselves and learning a new trade like advanced burglary techniques from an accomplished second-story man, or computer skills from an identity theft wonderkid. The system, like all systems, lives only to perpetuate itself. It works its own pace to ensure there will always be a steady crop of new bodies or recycled old ones to chew up in its grinder of dreams. Here in prison, unless you are lucky enough to be raised by my mother or one like her, you are lost. Unless you've learned the lessons of the little black and white tiles, you will never know what it is to be a proud worker. Read, overworked, underpaid, but happy because you work, and beer, cable TV, and kettle fried chips are cheap.
Thank you, Hilton. Give it up for Hilton one more time. The harsh reality of prison brought back some memories. Again, I hope your heart is still open and your mind is still open and you still lending us your ear. Like I said, in some ways we're moving y'all a little bit, so continue to stay open-minded, open-hearted. And we're going to continue with my friend, the queen. Let's give it up for Miss Parker, y'all.
Good afternoon. How y'all doing? I just met Miss Jenny Polak the first time in one of our writing workshops. So, very, very nice lady. And of course, for her tea and biscuits. This one I named Worldwide Labor. That was the best title that fit. If any one of y'all find something that's more fitting, I have an open ear. How high are your towers? How rock steady do you sit in your belief? Do you think you've earned that power? With how many generations of entitlement did you choose to agree? No, wait, I could be wrong. Maybe your mother had 11 kids, born in Cambodia, you're the 9th, so abject poverty was your life song. Peddling on the street became a destined life. Let it be boys, let it be girls, I need money, fuck it. They life, you pass on the strife. Young, beautiful Russian princess, full of dreams. Didn't know soon you'd be taking dick on your knees. You came for a housekeeping job. Now every office is filled to the seams. Every jug is your favorite. Sometimes you forget your name is Elizabeth. My poor little Congolese boy, they already took one hand, digging into the dirt for future cell phones you'll never have. Your parents haven't seen them in days, but as a child you have to be brave. You live in a world where hardly anyone gets saved. So every time you use your Wi-Fi, you've dialed in on his pain. Back in America, the supposed freest of them all, but even Cinderella was a servant when the glass slippers touched the ball. A few short words at the end of the 13th Amendment brings that to a halt. Years upon years given for simple offenses, torn apart families in ICE detentions, all cause someone's mad slavery on face value ended. Labor, slave labor, throw in a couple of sexual favors, and that guy next door that waves high, the kingpin of this type of shit, upper class neighborhood, has made many a mother cry. You're probably neighbors with that guy. Whether it's Epstein files or Nuremberg trials, Clinton to Cuomo denials, the prisons after Katrina or shit, Riker Isles. How many people have to die for a few to be rich and fly? In your towers so high, you never hurt for nothing at all. Off with your heads for watching humanity fall. You stood in the mirror, styling in designer threads. So much blood is built into the fabric, it's the collection of the walking dead. Fish tea and dumplings, no longer bottom of the barrel pour. Turn out every pretty one with a smile into a whore. Or take their organs in ice boxes to store. You finally started to matter in this big world, big boy. But they will still empty their bladders on you if you don't do more. Privette, Elizabeth. STDs, rape, beatings, endless run of the same. It could have been a man or a woman. You wouldn't have known their names. Face down, ass up, maybe a bukkake or two. You shouldn't pray and hope, but yet you still do. Knowing somewhere someone is praying for you. Congo, Sudan, Somalia, sweet mama Africa. So many slaves have come out of you. Trillions of dollars could never suffice. If you never wanted to deal with a single other continent ever again, that would be a very appropriate price. Hitler has nothing on you, so special burn in hell to King Leopold, and that's being nice. Back in America, we lobby, we protest, debate. We're still trying to figure out how to be great. On my bad, make it great again. Taking accountability and responsibility for the horrible, unforgivable actions, human trafficking, that's not up for the championship win. Will there never be boundaries or limits to your sins? Labor, slave labor, throw in a couple of sexual favors, and that guy next door that waves high is the kingpin of this type of shit. Upper class neighborhood has made many a mother cry. Yeah, you're probably neighbors with that guy. Whether it's Epstein files or Nuremberg trials, Clinton to Cuomo denials, the prisons after Katrina, or shit, Rikers Isles. How many people have to die for a few to be rich and fly? Woo!
Every time she read, I'm like, wow. Wow, that was deep. That was deep. Official. Oh, man. You move? Are we moving?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Moving? Oh, yeah. All right, yeah. We're going to keep it going then. My bro, right there. Felix, you ready, big bro? Give it up for Felix.
Off mic. I don't like the sound of my voice, y'all. This piece is called Undeserved. Undeserved does not mean undeserving. Undeserving. Emotional labor. No one talks about the journey back from being hurt people, to being independent of the confines of isolation and civil disability, and the questioning aloud of what is the meaning of being free, and being learned to the wisdom that healing is the language of those living the most, having transcended what doesn't kill but makes stronger. Unjustified existence, no such thing, for if birthed into becoming, divine design is never wrong. You see, wrong being always right till it can't get right. Best is it to amplify a reframe being necessary. For as every meal should be of integrity, whether bread and water is my portion, I'll sacrifice mine for another, requiring sustenance until they meet a moment for respite. You see, shouldering crosses, mine and otherwise, for fortune's sake, I will not return to residing within cages, even briefly a moment. Truth being the antidote for whatever desires remove dignity, the privilege of being the possibility of creating a legacy that survives all suffering gifted unto me. You see, enduring for good cause, exemplary road obligation for all being surviving and navigating collaboratively the prior moments. Let us be mindful to remain vigilant. You see, we never meant to survive uncharted waters, whether a firm landing or shipwreck must see ground floor opportunities as the memories living between the margins of. You see, it's a collective effort that is necessary to put in place to be the paradigm shift. Not only am I you and of you, but I am because of you. My legacy is our legacy. May all harm fall upon me if you dream even just another night or even being indifferent to its pursuit. We are the pulse of all movements yet to be born and those that came before us. We, the wallflowers, desiring only abide by our purpose to see it flourish, whether by nature and nurture, nourished, one time mistaken, twice ashamed, third time never, will I see myself encaged. Never self-serving, as underrepresented does not mean absent of existence. Remember this always, underserved never means undeserving. I rebuke all habits that don't serve me, just as it's the responsibility of the rose to choose blooming through the concrete, and where applicable, all other possible conditions of the firmament, regardless of any pauses in between my being in community or behind the wall, beyond the bars, imagined otherwise. People keep living, and the world as we know it keeps turning. Despite looking or not looking like what I've been through during the day, I, as a candle in the night, commit to deferring death's overwhelm. As much as breathing is an act of resistance, I'm gonna keep my fire burning, because as I am of you, brighter burns my light because of you.
One of the truest and realest poets in New York. Give it up. For real, y'all. That's a really good right there. We're gonna keep it moving. Keep it moving, you heard me? Keep it moving. You like it? No doubt, y'all. Versace, when you have big
I was gonna say, there's no H. But before I start, I was gonna say, thank you to everyone that put this event together. This shit is fucking beautiful. So all the hands, Daniel, everyone that put this shit together, this shit is fucking amazing. It's like looking at everyone in this room is nothing short of beautiful, and I just want to acknowledge that before I begin. This poem is kind of short. You know, if you know me, those my kind of poems, short to the point. So we're just gonna get into it. This is just, I don't have a name for it yet, so we're just gonna see how y'all feel about it. Hands buried in the womb of the earth, worn, slatterly and torn, sweat of dystocia, thousand tattered trees of blood, decadent spilled blood of an angel, your blood that feeds the earth, and with each drop a story of stolen time, stolen breath of a strange fruit that would feed others, while their own spirits remain usurian. Desperate voices raised in whispered songs with streets paved in bitter bones, amid fatigue deeper than sleep. A heartbeat in the chest of descendants, the soul remembers what the sky forgets, cradles every ache, every fistful of dust, and returns it in the language of root and stone. Fingers tracing the veins of leaves as though each green pulse might forgive the neglect. The wind carries the murmurs of mothers who named their children with hope, even when the hope itself was borrowed, even when their lullabies were swallowed by the hungry maw of time. I am my ancestors' child, blood of my blood, crafted from the fires of passion and fury, the essence of hope and despair, the ultimate paradox. The child of chains and wrath, syncretic to Michael, I take my sword and slay the devil himself. I pave the way for war and peace. I embrace the left hand of God, and in their knowledge I seek. I am my ancestors' child. I am made to be free.
Yes. The youth, the voice of the youth. The voice of the day, the voice of the future. Versace, y'all, give it up for Versace.
There was two eyes.
Yes, two eyes. Let's give it up, Jamie. Come up here, Jamie.
I'm in the Felix school of thought of with the microphone. It is such a beautiful thing to see all these gorgeous faces. Thank you, Jenny. Yeah, I could. Yeah, you know, like a real friendship that comes out of incredible art making. and art witnessing. I get to, just hang out with all these cool folks. It's my honor. Thank you to the gallery for like we said earlier, every hand that is a part in shaping this. I am beyond thrilled to be able to read on behalf of an incredible multi-hyphenate artist named Nadine Isis Richardson. She can't, physically be with us, but she is absolutely with us. If you see me on my phone, I'm just like sending her tons of pictures, and she's she's with us. So on her behalf, I hope I do it justice. This piece was penned. These two mattress pieces were created as a part of Fortune and Jenny's collaboration with MoMA PS1. We did an exhibition November of 2024 through March of 2025 called Future Freedoms. And these pieces, it was this gorgeous, quite organic collaboration and partnership that sprung up. I would say Isis is among the hands that helped to also bring the embroidery to life. So this piece entitled Behind the Scenes is one, Norman! Yes, there are more hands. This is what Isis penned sort of in response to that moment. Behind the scenes. So you want to know what happens behind the scenes? I could just pry open this rib cage and show you how a heart beats. I could show you the body's function, teach you the production of blood, sweat, and tear ducts. From bad blood, burnt, boiled, cold, to one of the greatest stories ever told. As sweat drips from my silhouette, liquid proof of this labor of love, and all that I am capable of. Tears drying as quickly as they appear, while I confess my deepest regrets. I cry, I bleed, I sweat. Not in a metamorphic sense. I mean this quite literally. This is the epitome of the pits of me. I had to dig deep within me, so much so that this art form came before me. Once locked in a windowless room, now doors opening up for me. As the time passed, it was never a chore for me. The journey, the learning, the earnings. I don't know what means more to me. Before this idea was fathomed, it started in the mind as an atom. Ignited as it traveled from synapse to synapse. It became a chemical remedy of serotonin and dopamine. My mind was on a high you only get from life. Rehearsing my history created a shift in me. This is my therapy. Working in harmony, we created a symphony. As a collective, we collaborated, talked it out and elaborated, tore it all to pieces just to do it again. Every brainstorm session made the heart shine incessantly, pushing through trial and error, the breaks and repairs, the tension, the pressure. Can't forget to mention the effort. Got a plate full, but I'm starving. It's cathartic. I'm an artist.
Love you all.
Behind the scenes, one, Nasis. I just fucked it up and she's on camera right there. Nadine Isis Richardson.
Yes.
All love.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Isis. Isis, two powerful beings. And Jamie, man, like always getting us together and gathering us. I appreciate you. Want to always make sure I give thanks to you. Got us through that COVID time with the Zoom with all of us, kept us all together, and we still all together, man. That's all thanks to you, Jamie. Give it up for Jamie.
Yes.
Okay, we got the goddess Megan coming up. Give it up for Megan.
Hello everyone, thank you for being here. I'm actually a substitute for Helen Taylor, So for those of you who are familiar with her work, you all know that she is an amazing poet. For those of you who are not familiar with Helen Taylor, I would suggest that you follow the Fortune Society's art journeys so that hopefully you would get to see her perform her poetry. I'm going to be reading a poem that I wrote. Just out of respect for all my peers, I would like to be honest and mention that I have not been through incarceration, but I am a daughter of an illegal immigrant family, and I've gone to the hospital, the involuntary hospitalization, and I've gone through the shelter system in New York. So forced labor and illegal labor is something that I am familiar with, so I'm just going to be sharing from my perspective of it. Thank you. So, I was the only one who went to art class. I was painting a lion. I got transferred in the middle of the night, so I couldn't get my work from class. I wonder what the teacher would do with it. I could have asked. She surprised me with an email. It's been a few months since I left the shelter. I was staying with my mother's cousin. I read the message to her excited. It was an invitation to show my art. It would be auctioned. I would get paid. An opportunity to have worth. I got to work. Section by section, I created a reflection of my mother's beauty, my aunt's love, my grandmother's resilience, my art. It was put on display. The crowd oohed and awed, photographed. I was even interviewed, published. My face still represents the program. A great show, a fulfilling day. But day's end, the excitement was done. Next week, next month, next year. The money never came. The art was never returned. I just wanted to know, how much was I worth?
I like the wave. I feel the wave. I feel the energy, y'all. We're gonna keep it moving with my bro Caleb Knight. Give it up for Caleb Knight, y'all.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, the gallery. Thank you, Essex Market. Everybody who's been involved putting this together. I have the extreme pleasure of being part of the Fortune Arts community as well, and am thinking a lot about that. A year ago this time, I was actually in a different department at the Fortune Society, and it was a poetry reading at the opening of the exhibit that this work was featured at MoMA PS1. That was my first time coming and being part of the arts community at Fortune, and y'all stole me real quick. So I'm so grateful to be here with you all. I'm gonna read a piece that was inspired by a filmmaker named Sky Hopinka, and it's after his film I'll Remember You As You Were, Not What You'll Become. And this is called Watching Sky Hopinka's Film, I Imagine What We Could Have Become. I don't want to consider an afterlife that doesn't contain music. Then again, we have music in this world, and is that solving anything? I pass people with ears full of music and no commitment to hearing each other. I pass a rock on campus that in bronze inscription acknowledges the stealing of this land from the Lenape people, but it's too quiet. Spirits pass in vibrant color, and I don't know if they are singing or being sung for. They are bobbing shoulders and occasional noses. They are carrying pieces of earth, our pieces of earth. In Hopinka's film, whenever the words end, there is a ripple of color. Some people in the classroom notice the presence of light. I notice its absence. Jay says the only way to show a thing sometimes is to not show it. What don't you see here? Then a human returns and the jokes begin. jokes informed by a lifetime of being mistaken, seen wrongly, which is the same or worse than being not seen at all. A city goes by in an instant, and a voiceless command instructs us to make a picture in our minds. Who is the narrator? A city goes by, neon crosses across the screen, not crosses like the verb, crosses like murder in the name of hungry deities. We are overcome by the blur, but it does not stop the human voices from singing songs about Oklahoma and one-eyed Fords, about taking the people we love home. Now it's a landscape, now it's wide open cornfields, and anything brought before our consciousness is sufficient indication of its existence. Imagination is only a word made up to label and belittle the unsanctioned thoughts that appear in our minds, like how a world not built on murder is only existent in our imaginations, where we walk our loves to unstolen homes.
Powerful. Caleb Knight, y'all. Give it up for Caleb Knight. Lauren was in the building.
I'm right
Lauren
here.
is in the building. D.S. Finest, y'all. Give it up for D.S. Finest. You know, Lauren, give it up for Lauren.
Hi everyone, my name is Nori. This is something that I wrote for the piece that we made at the museum. The name of it is Nothing to Something in My Own Little Corner. Whether small or big, short or tall, anxiety, sweat, and a store heartbeat, time dedicated, blood, sweat, and tears, drowning in sorrow for years. A dark place I once called home, yet it was never felt like my own. A prison of pain, an unbroken cycle, a death without end, words left unsaid. But in my own corner, I built up my might, my big dreamer stepping into the light. The cycle is shattered, the chain fall away. This is my justice. I rise today for those who've been broken. I created transformation, my pain into something great. Now I use my mind to break my chain. No longer bond. I've been conquered, the pain. No longer silent, no longer small. I stand with courage, I stand tall. I stitch my story, thread by thread, from all the words I never said. The past once held me captive. But now I see it shaped the strength that live in me. In my own corner, I plant my seed of hope, of love, of all I need. I rise, I soar, I claim my space. No more running, I embrace my place. For nothing to something, I always been a light that refused to dim again. Thank you guys.
We have some great artists up here, and now we're gonna close with myself with something I wrote a few years ago. Yeah, spiritual activist, Mama Wayne. I never said my name. Spirit, call me Spirit. But this is called Time in Prison. Are they mutually exclusive? A friend of mine who was formerly incarcerated expressed in a written piece that prison was the best thing that ever happened to him. Obviously, that's his own opinion and feelings, and I truly appreciate and respect his freedom to voice it. He expressed that in a piece, and his reason behind it, he never really told me. So I look forward to hearing his thoughts in entirety sometime in the future. But his opinion made me think of my own incarceration. His words in the piece made me think Was prison the best thing that ever happened to me? And I would have to say emphatically not. To me, there's prison and then there's time. Prison is a dark, cold, and unforgiving place controlled by the powers that be that want to break you mentally, spiritually, and physically. Time, on the other hand, is your friend. It's controlled by no one, there for you to do within it as you please. It's the space within a place, any place. And for 25 years, prison was the place where time for me held space. I want to express to you what time allowed for me to do and what prison tried to keep and take away from me. Time gave me the opportunity to receive my GED. I was on Rikers Island at the time. The year was 1994. Despite this great opportunity, prison made it hard for me to get out my cell each day for class. I would have to yell and scream each day for officers to let me out. Prison officials would create bogus disciplinary tickets for some prisoners in order to keep them locked in their cells, causing them to miss classes and obviously fail the course. Prison also created an environment of violence from other prisoners as well as officers that made it hard for some students to have that peace of mind needed to concentrate on their education. It was a struggle at times to think about an upcoming test when you're thinking about another prisoner possibly slashing you in the face over the phone, or a correctional officer jumping you just for the fuck of it. But through it all, my determination and patience over time allowed me to achieve my GED in spite of all the many negative obstacles before me. Time allowed for me to build a stronger relationship with my mother. We argued constantly when I was home about my drug dealing and lack of work ethic. I was a hard-headed kid, always in trouble, constantly worrying her every time I stepped out the house. Time brought us closer, giving me a greater appreciation of my mother and everything she did and trying to give my siblings and I a better life. We cried together on the visit floor when I confessed to her about my crime that I was convicted of. We reminisce about the past and give hope for one another for the future. Prison tried to destroy this new bond. Prison tried to keep us apart by sending me 6-7 hours away, making travel to see me more of a harrowing adventure than a simple visit. Then once at the prison to visit me, my mother and friends and family were subjected to delays in getting in, as well as disrespect from officers. Prison also changed my mother's Prison also charged my mother astronomical phone prices just for us to communicate with one another over the phone. Time allowed for me to find better ways spiritually and holistically to better my health and healing. I began to eat healthier foods and was sent by friends and family. I exercised regularly and meditated daily. Time also allowed for me to discover my gift of writing. Prison fed me 4 slices of bread 3 times a day with each meal. The morning meal was a bowl of cereal. That was the best nutritional value of the 3 meals that we ate each day. The afternoon and evening meal was devoid of any nutritional value. The combination of soy and starches was all we could look forward to. No wonder the high rate of diabetes, high blood pressure, and heart disease in prison. Prison made it extremely hard to get healthy foods shipped inside. You are allowed a food package each month of only 35 pounds with an arbitrary system of foods which was allowed and not allowed. Sometimes you got your vegetables and sometimes you didn't. Or sometimes you'll get called down to receive your package on time, or sometimes they call you down a week later and everything was spoiled. Prison only allowed for you to have a certain number of books to read at one time. I believe it was 15. They also didn't allow for you to have certain books. Books like Solidarities by George Jackson were not allowed by media review. When your cell was searched by correctional officers, a lot of times your books and writing material would be taken and destroyed. Prison officials knew the power behind reading material and the pen and the pad. And it was also a constant battle to maintain these materials. Time gave me the opportunity to reflect on my life and how I was living. Time forced me to see how my insecurities were affecting my behavior towards others. I realized I had to build a stronger foundation within myself in order to deal with conflict situations. I learned that the solution to every conflict didn't have to be violence. The people I initially hung out with in prison were reactionary individuals, quick to resort to violence for every situation, big or small. I understood that if I wanted to change, I had to also change who I surrounded myself with. So I began to make a conscious effort to be around individuals who were thinkers, who wanted to be the solution, not the problem. Time allowed for me during this growth process to discover silent worship, meditation through my association with the Quakers. Silent worship allowed for me to slow things down and be more in control of my emotions, and in some instances, the emotions of others. Time also allowed for me to read literature on conflict resolutions, how to de-escalate rather than escalate a situation. Time allowed for all these things to help break down the facsimile of the man I thought I was supposed to be and rebuild myself into the man I was meant to be. Prison wanted me to be an animal. Whenever the Scared Straight program walked kids through the facility, while we were in our cells, they would manipulate and threaten us into yelling and screaming at these kids as they walk by, never wanting us or asking us to have a calm discussion with these kids. No, they wanted us on the gate like animals in a zoo. Those times were when the kids walked through were the most embarrassing and hurtful moments I experienced in prison. If you didn't scream and yell like an animal on the gate to these kids when they walked by, you sat there on your bed staring at the wall in silence, anticipating for the last kid to walk by your cell. And that's what I did. Prison kept prisoners in segregated sections in the yard with regards to tables we sat at. This race here, that race there. This gang there, that gang there. They promoted separation. They helped systematically create an us against them mentality in prison. They allowed the drugs and the weapons into the facility to help fuel this us against us mindset. They wanted us to kill each other over the TV. They wanted us to kill over the phones. Prison doesn't promote change. They don't want an individual to make changes in his life that would make him a productive member of society if released. No, they want you to be that animal they've systematically bred you to be, a beast with no hope of freedom or change, spending the rest of your life behind bars, ensuring prison officials a guaranteed paycheck for many years to come. Time allowed for me to feel remorse for the life I took, to recognize that I destroyed many lives with my actions. Time allowed for me to realize that I couldn't make up for what I did, but I could definitely make a difference in the lives of those on the same negative path I was on. Time allowed me to prepare myself for freedom. Time gave me the hope that prison tried to take away from me. Excuse me.
Take your time.
Good. Use the light, bud. Use the light.
With the hope and possibility to reach out to the youth and help them. Pardon me.
It's okay.
It's always hard.
It's real. It's real.
Time allowed for me to realize that life is about moments. There are 24 hours in a day, 365 in a year. But it will be specific moments in your life that will shape, mold, and solidify your foundation or break it. And depending upon your decision that you make in that moment, I made a horrible decision that allowed my moment to break me and the foundation of my family, the lives of others. We can begin to recognize our moments when they are happening and be more secure enough to make the right decisions. Prison doesn't offer you the tools in those moments. Time does. Prison is a place that looks forward to individuals making bad decisions while in the moment. It's how they make their money.
Yes.
And once inside the belly of the beast, they continue to try to manipulate and control your moments. It's like the song Hotel California, you can check in anytime you like, but you can never leave. That's exactly how the powers run it and when it ran in prison, like a Hotel California. I'm amongst the blessed few that were able to check out. In closing, this dispatch on prison and time was written with the youth in mind. I want young people to know that they don't have to go to prison to discover their true self. Unearthing that supernatural being, which is you, doesn't have to come with such a cost. I gave away and took away so much. I gave away and took away so much to become the man I am today.
That's all right.
Yep.
It was an unfair exchange. I didn't have to make the hasty choices that led me on a path to prison. I had time. Once you realize that time is your friend, you begin to make decisions in those pivotal moments of your life that reflect your respect for your friend, your life, and the life of others. We've been systematically brainwashed as black people to believe that we don't have time. They tell us constantly about our life expectancy compared to other races. They tell us everyone has time but us, and we believe it. And so we live that way. Our conflict resolutions reflect that thought. The way we eat reflects that thought. The way we shop reflects that thought. The amount of respect we have for one another reflects that thought. But I'm here to tell you that you do have time. Time exists in the neighborhood, at home with family, with your friends in the park, or on the web, at your job, at your school. It exists for us all. We just have to believe in it, believe in ourselves, and believe in one another. So please, take advantage of your time. I fought through so much while in prison for 25 years to achieve the thing that would have taken less blood, sweat, and tears to achieve had I just taken that same amount of time while I was home. Prison isn't here to save you. It wasn't prison that saved me. I am the man I am today in spite of prison. It was time that saved me. I finally took advantage of my time. Peace, pop. I gotta read this again next week.
Get it out. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate y'all. And that was our collective of artists, man. I hope we moved y'all some way. We expressed ourselves. Like I said, we're the voice of those that can't really express themselves. And for a lot of times, for a long time, a lot of us were on the inside and couldn't really express. That's why now, I shed tears more now than I did when I was on the inside, because I was confined and I felt like I had to. But I feel free and I feel, in a safe space with everyone. So I share. So, but yeah, the artists you heard here, man, we all share. And we appreciate y'all coming through. And we're not done yet. We got the big bro over there, DK. We're gonna read some of the collections that you see on the wall that himself and Jenny lovely put together. But we're gonna all read some from the excerpts from the art there. You want to? Yeah. Oh yeah, my bad. That's right. You're right. I'm off. You're right. That's why Yanni's here. Let me get away. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're like holding it down for all of us, and we need to hold it down for you.
Appreciate you.
Yes.
Hold space for that. That was so beautiful. Everyone, just literally everyone, you are all amazing. I'm waiting for the publication to come out. I'm so excited. Seriously, we're waiting for it. I just want to hold space for all of y'all for reading. That was just phenomenal. Like literally. My heart. I'm like, it's amazing. I just want to just take a moment. You gave us a moment earlier, and I want us to take a moment and just ground right here. So we can just take a moment and just receive. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Seriously. From the bottom of my heart. Thank you. I want to bring up Jenny and Lauren to give a quick conversation, and then we'll move into the collective briefing. Thank everyone so much. Fortune Society, y'all are phenomenal.
Yeah, this is wonderful gathering. Thank you, everyone. This is our kind of closing event for this exhibition. So it's really moves me a lot to have everyone come around and kind of, as Daniel, as Nori knows, kind of a full circle from all the work we were doing for PS1 and that some of which is part of this show as well. I'm just excited to have Lauren Schusterman here with us, who is an immigration attorney. We met through our activism with Jewish Voice for Peace, our efforts to get the Jewish community here to work against the kind of weaponizing of Jewish trauma to keep America funding the genocide in Israel that's being done by Israel against Palestine. And so we sort of wandered through that a bit, and I found out what work Lauren was doing. Excuse me, I'm very tired because I've been traveling a lot. And it's really close to the work that sort of is the older work in this show, which is to do with immigration enforcement, really, and stuff that I started doing back in 2005, 2006, at the time of the Bush administration, which was sort of doing a lot of showy immigration raids, workplace raids, and a bunch of activists that I was in touch with started to track those raids, and I was very fascinated by the kind of revelations of the data almost that was coming out across the country that kind of revealed the kind of amazing range of work that the migrant workers were doing. So you'll see some of that work in this wallpaper here and in the whole series of ICE escape signs that I started to make for all the different spaces. Some of them art spaces, museums or whatever, wherever I was showing art. Acknowledging that those were also spaces of work, and there are people working in those spaces who might be vulnerable to being grabbed by immigration police. Anyhow, so I want to introduce Lauren because she's doing some wonderful work around prison labor in the detention system and amongst other things. But we kind of thought this would be a good segue for this gathering because it's quite groundbreaking, I think, at the moment. It's something that's been coming on gradually as more and more of the prison system gets turned over to private enterprise, and that the kind of gateway for the abuse that causes is the detention system, because it was privatized first. Why? Because it's basically low security prison, not a very difficult bar for those companies to kind of set up and run, and the exploitation that they developed as a business model is now being very much, kind of infecting more and more of the regular prison system as well. It's kind of there's a back and forth. Can I give it over to you?
Thank you, Jenny. I don't know if is this working? Should be. Thank you, Jenny, and thank you to everyone who shared earlier. I felt moved by all of your work, and I'm amazed. Tell Jenny this, just the ability to put all of these very heavy, painful topics into creative work that does move. Really powerful. So thank you for sharing. like Jenny said, I'm an immigration lawyer, and I have been seeing more and more the overlap with the topic of forced labor that we've been talking about today. In terms of what is going on, we're seeing the highest number of immigrants detained in history. I think in the last week or so, about 66,000 people are being detained in immigration facilities, and the majority of those are run by private corporations, specifically Geo Group and Civic Corp. Also own other prisons, the majority of immigration prisons. And the bar for being detained in those centers is, there's no bar. They're just snatching people off the street. And there is a case that the Supreme Court is going to hear next week called Minokal versus Geo Group. And it is not getting very much attention, I think, because the legal question that's being presented is very narrow. But essentially what Geo Group is trying to argue is that they are entitled to immunity from lawsuit, which is crazy. It's unprecedented. There's the cases they're pointing to in their brief do not support the argument they are making, and yet they're making the argument anyways, probably likely because we have the Supreme Court that we have that doesn't care about precedent or the Constitution, laws, anything, and that kind of decision would apply to all federal contractors. And as more and more work or functions of the government are being outsourced to private contractors, that could potentially be really devastating. Like you mentioned, and also in all of your work, you talked about there are already so many abuses in the prison system. There's already no accountability for the crimes that are committed in these systems, and the effect that granting total immunity to the lawsuit, like even coming into court, would be devastating. So that is going to be heard next week on the 10th. And I feel like I haven't heard very much discussion in the media or anything about it. Also, there's a lot going on right now. But to me, it stands out as a case that, would be extremely devastating.
Yeah, I wanted to say that this is a case that has been schlepping through courts since 2014, right? You're telling me, and I first started to hear about these are cases that came up around the exploitation of labor in the detention system. It was basically the way these private prisons run those prisons is they make the people that they detain do all the work and run the prison, and it's a exploitative business model, obviously, but in the weird way that the system here works, it's also in a different way illegal, basically, because immigrant detainees are not convicted felons, and so that strictly speaking they can't be used in that way. But all of those geo groups and people have been doing it, so various immigration lawyers for several years have strenuously tried to bring class action suits where the employed detainees, if they could be saved enough to even bring a lawsuit, would do that, and that's partly kind of why it's come to a head now, and it's really important now because there's so much a kind of knock-on effect for the regular prison system, and like Lauren says, it's a lawsuit like this is basically Geo Group saying that they cannot be subject to labor laws of the state they're in because they're performing a federal service. It's kind of what it is, isn't it? So they're immune, and but that if that was to go through, then like Lauren says, that then kind of feeds into their abuses across the board, and their impunity. So
I think it also incentivizes them to detain more and more
Right, because
people.
it's you know, unfortunately, it's, as we all know, it kind of comes back to slavery and the kind of the model of of exploiting people for their, just using them up basically to do the work. So Lauren is writing something about it. I hope it gets published in time for people to kind of know about this, even if we can't put any hope in any of these courts now. There is a chance to at least expose a bit more what's being built here. It's being built by the billionaire class who owns these prison companies and so on. But yeah, so I'm glad we were able to kind of talk about that, because in a way, sometimes it seems a little bit obscure how the work that I've done over the years around immigration detention kind of segues into the work that I've done with many of you around forced prison labor in the regular prison system. And I want people to think about the connections between the two. So I was very excited to be able to put these different bodies of work in the same room, essentially, so people can kind of put those arguments together for themselves. I think we're almost out of time for talking, I don't know.
You have like 10 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, go for it. You don't have to, but.
Well, some of the things I wanted to say about one of the ways that I first got involved in this trying to stand up to Geo Group and the other private prison companies was actually south of Chicago, where the interface between the federal government and the local states has around detention immigrants has been very shady for a long time. So that there was the government had said we must have more space for detention near Chicago, or near enough to Chicago's immigration office. And when they put out those RFPs, those requests for bids for prisons to be built, there's a kind of shark swarming thing that happens all around the area, and all these little rather poor communities south of Chicago were being targeted by the executives of GEO and so on. And what caught my attention at the time was that one community called Crete, Illinois, a little town, said no. And it was the first time that some community had sort of heard all the kind of arguments about, we'll bring you jobs, we'll bring you, we'll make your community better in some way if you let us build there. And it all came down to this little planning committee and huge pressure by immigrant churches in Chicago, in the south side of Chicago, going to talk with this white community in Crete, Illinois, and having these kind of prayer meetings and things where they would explain why it was such a bad idea and just really educate people as to the fact that there wouldn't be jobs because all the jobs in those places are done by the detainees, basically. And it's a big lie. So, and that success of Crete in saying no, it sparked a whole bunch of work that I did with that community and then the neighboring kind of communities, all the way to Gary, Indiana. And I just want to kind of close the circle with Gary, which is a black city, very, very depressed black city that was then targeted. And there were some incredible meetings of people there and up to the kind of city council, because again, it came down to the local planning committee to approve or not approve. And there was a really brilliant activist in Gary, and she was like, you have to understand that this is, this is about us too. There tends to be a kind of division in the activism because people will say, well, we're not the ones who this is targeting. But she was very clear. She was like, if they build this huge prison and for some reason they don't have enough immigrants to put in it, you know who they're coming for next. They're going to want to fill it. So, that was such a powerful argument in this meeting. I was like, wow, yeah, that's kind of crosses over, brings everybody together on the same side. So it was very.
And in many of the facilities, people are detained together. There is no separation between immigrant detainees and other prisoners. Yeah, it's all connected, all of the systems.
So, but not to be too depressing about it, the people there, the people in these local settings kind of rose up around the Southlands of Chicago at that time in several places, and then they would kind of go to other communities and teach each other the law, basically, around where you have an opportunity to say no. So that was an upside to the whole thing.
And those efforts are still, like, I work in New Jersey, and in Union County, a similar process was going on for a request for proposal for this jail facility right by our office. And community members showed up in the hundreds to every single council member meeting that they held, and they committed to not giving any contracts to any ICE facilities. So those efforts are still ongoing. I think they're going to be increasingly important.
Anyone got any questions? Perhaps we should have if we've got a minute for some questions.
Absolutely. Yeah. We got 8 minutes for questions.
Exactly.
You were saying about the Supreme Court, and I heard recently that how can the Supreme Court's rulings be better backed if it's only based off of their word, and that's why it seems like they're not getting followed. Like when a judge in our court passes down saying, police know that, so they will then go to said person or people and arrest them or give them warrants or to cease and desist. Would they consider ever somehow giving the Supreme Court a police force? Because that's the only way to force them to do it. You get arrested. Because he's not following these, because there's no, what are you gonna do, an old man in a suit gonna come and headlock you? Like, so what is their idea of not weaponizing the Supreme Court, but giving them something where someone say, follow what the Supreme Court says, or we're at your door?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I feel like a big problem is there is no enforcement mechanism for the decisions. The decisions usually aren't good. At this point, like there are lower courts, district courts, and courts of appeals that are issuing very important decisions in line with precedent, in line with the Constitution. And it would be great if there was some way to force the government to comply with the law.
Like, to me, it seems like you can't respect the Supreme Court if they're passing a ruling that no one follows.
And that's not in line with
You're
precedent.
taking out the whole chain and just creating your own. So why isn't he getting impeached off that fact alone? But they're not including the other ones. But can't you, isn't there no laws of you not following the Supreme Court means you're not qualified for the job? Can we just put that, is there somehow we can argue that? If I don't listen to my boss, I have no job. I'm just like, what is?
I mean, I think it's the moment we're in is really exposing that disconnect, right? So there's a federal judge who has told the administration they are not allowed to not pay SNAP, right?
Right. That's not even the most latest.
They're not gonna listen.
Who gonna check me, boo? That's the way it's going.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Where are our checks?
Yeah,
Who's
well,
checking?
well, here,
We're learning that there are
sis,
none.
from my understanding of civics, okay? Something they used to teach decades ago, but now they don't teach you how to write in script. I digress. The one who's supposed to actual force in place is the marshals, the U.S. Marshals. The U.S. Marshals work for the Department of Justice. Now you see where we're looking here? We have to have a level of judicial integrity in place. If we are all not under a rock, we will see that has been done a long time ago. Who runs the DOJ? Who runs the FBI? Who runs the DOJ? Who controls the marshals? Who enforces the court standings? Now, if the DOJ works for said person that the court is ruling against, who gonna check me, boo? Case closed.
Great point. But if we understand that the law of the land is written for those who enforce it to follow, we will understand what the 13th Amendment says. And it's the very 13th Amendment that gives rise to this, everything you see around you. This is slave labor. So, if you violate the law of the land, your status as a civilian changes. You are no longer a civilian. You become slave. And because you become slave, when you get duly convicted of a felony, your status changes. So I can do what I want with you. You are going to make our mattresses, our pillows, core craft. You are going to do all of these things. So if you violate the law of the land, those people who enforce the laws of the land, that thing was written in dehumanizing language. So I don't have to see you as a human. I can treat you as one who will produce for me, even though it's illegal. Even though it's illegal, stop me.
Well, originally thought to be property to start with. And the only way that we were then given 5 seconds of humanity is because of their right to vote congressionally, to give us 3/5 of a man's status, to be counted how many slaves you own, to give you that many more votes congressionally. Civics, people, civics.
So what would be some of your suggestions that we can do to help with your talk?
Resist.
How can we do
Right on that.
I mean, I think one thing as ICE is conducting raids is documenting, witnessing, being present. That's your legal right to do that, and I think it's important to keep eyes on what's going on as more and more detention centers start popping up in our communities, being aware of them, fighting against them.
The ICE.
Where?
Well,
We ride at dawn.
it's tricky to track them. You have to. There are Instagram groups where people are encouraged to post if they see an operation in progress, and then there have been some. If you look at the postings from Chicago, where it's been really heavy, the ICE activity, people have been really courageous there. Just like neighborhoods will come out. They'll stand around the ICE cars, they'll yell at them, to let people know that this is happening, and stay in your house or stay in your school. You know, they're trying to get people who've come to pick up their kids from daycare. They've got these all, shitty tactics to capture more people to meet their quota and stuff. But the people, there's been some wonderful scenes of people being very courageous around these very heavily armed, masked, scary people, right? So take courage, I think.
I think let's go first and then yeah.
Thank you. In Harlem, they've been seen, and also in Queens, College Point and Flushing, which is the neighborhood I was born and raised in, that has a large illegal immigrant population in College Point. They've been seen, so they're going to neighborhoods that there's a lot of poverty and immigrants with low education, because you don't see them as much in Manhattan, in the neighborhood I'm in now. And the landowners have told me, when I brought up I've never seen ICE here, they said, we have too much money and the families visiting don't want to see ICE arresting illegal immigrants while they're coming to visit their kids in NYU. So they're not, ICE is specifically targeting neighborhoods that they feel like they're not gonna have pushback for their actions. But like she said, there's Instagram. Yeah, there's Instagram groups that are keeping track of it. I've seen a few of them.
My question is about GEO group. So I was a social worker for a long time in LA. My first job out of grad school was at an immigration law firm, and I would go out to Adelanto detention facility in the butt F of the LA desert. Tumbleweeds would be rolling by. There's a sign when you drive in that's so manipulative. It says something like Adelanto, the city where dreams are made. And then you walk in and detainees are in different colored jumpsuits based on their level of criminality. I think there's red, orange, blue being the most like serene prisoners. Some were in shackles, even though it's civil, it's not criminal. And the GEO guards were so mean. And this was 10 years ago, and clearly this was all happening before that. But 10 years later, it's worse than ever, and GEO is now, you're saying, potentially immune to.
That's what they're trying to say,
So like after this hearing, what is it, next week, they're just gonna continue getting away with ultimate crimes on their end, right? Like that's essentially what's gonna happen.
And the lawsuit that this all, they were being sued for human trafficking, under the TVPRA, which is the Human Trafficking Act. There were other charges, but that was the main one, because they are engaging in human trafficking. And they will just keep doing that unless there is some kind of accountability measure.
Okay. Do we want to go? Do you wanted to say something first?
No,
or-
I
and
just
then
wanted
we'll
to say that, I mean, we sit and we look at what's going on and we wonder what to do, and you know, I'm not an immigrant to this country, nobody black is, we were stolen, and the land was robbed. But the reality of it is that the Constitution is a pretty good document, except for its obvious flaws, 3/5 and all that. And the thing that makes it a brilliant document created by rich white slave owners was its ability to be changed. A lot of documents that lead countries, that's it. So we have the power, and how do we change that as the people? The first three words of the Constitution, we the people. The power, everybody looks and they go, oh, everything will be okay because the institutions will save us. The institutions ain't gonna save us. We have to save us. So you can't sit around waiting for somebody to save you. Sometimes you got to save yourself. So if you want to know what to do, very simple, resist. Find some place where you can get in, fit in, and do the work. Because black people are able to walk around today in relative freedom because people before us put their bodies between what they were trying to do and what we wanted to be done.
Literally.
That's how you do it. I had scars in the back of my head from being in Philadelphia, Mississippi in 1964 when I was like 8 1/2. All right? So people have been doing this for a while and it never stops. And the thing is, they always worry. It's like, who was his name? Friedrich Niemuller. He made the famous quote after Auschwitz. First they came for the communists, and I wasn't a communist, and I didn't speak up. Then they came for the Union, I didn't speak up. And they came for the Jew, and I wasn't a Jew, so I didn't speak up. Eventually, when they come for you, there may not be nobody left to speak up. So it's in your self-interest to fight what's happening, because eventually they're gonna get to you. Unless you're rich, white, and male, you're fucked. That's all I got.
Thank you so much. I want to let you have your last remark, and then we can.
I just want to add one thing.
Oh yeah, please. So, last. Yeah, go for it. 5 minutes. Yeah, go for it.
No, please.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure. So I also work in criminal justice reform myself. We've also seen an increased activity of detainees, and so there's been expansion or resourcing in facilities. And now, I've actually not even heard of this court case coming up soon. So this is really interesting, really scary. I guess my question to you is, let's say this case is struck down. Let's say they choose against it, right? You said that this has been happening since maybe like 2014. Are they going to continue? What does that kind of look like?
So the case is about this thing called the Yearsley Doctrine, which gives limited immunity to government contractors if they are performing work that was directed by the government and the government's grant of that authority to them to do the work was constitutional, approved by Congress. And so the lower courts were like, no, you're not entitled to this defense. The government didn't direct you to enslave the people you're detaining. We're paying you to run this facility, not force the people there to run it for you. And so GEO groups have been dragging out this litigation for years and appealing just that specific question. Like the lower court didn't even make a decision on the merits of the case as a whole, which I think is part of the strategy because litigation is expensive and fewer law firms are taking these kinds of cases. And so it makes it harder and harder to bring the suits. But if they do reject GEO Group's claim, it will go back down to the lower courts and they will make a decision on the merits regarding the trafficking claims.
Just before we wrap up, I just wanted to also, because of where we are right now, name that just a couple of weeks ago there actually was an ICE raid just a few blocks from here in Chinatown. So they are making their way to Manhattan and they are targeting groups that are sort of without institution, without structure in this case. They targeted street vendors, which are sort of all over Chinatown and is a big part of the economy. However, an informal economy, it is a real economy in that neighborhood. So I just wanted to name that given our proximity to the place. And acknowledge that I think a lot of us in this room carry different levels of precarity and risk in doing something about all of this, and that there are many ways to participate in resistance. And so we have just a few left, and they're very hard to get, but we are getting more, I swear. We've been giving them out all year. We have red cards, we have them in English, we have Mandarin now, and we're getting Spanish as soon as they can produce them for us. These are cards that you can carry in your wallet. You can give to people in your community that tell you a very brief summary of what someone's rights are if they're approached by an ICE agent. It also tells you in English, regardless of the language on the front of the card, what to say to an ICE agent. You can do this as an active bystander, or you can do it as a person who has attempted to be detained. That is if you are physically comfortable doing such a thing. Perhaps it is easier just to give them to people in your community and allow them to make a choice about how they use them. For folks who did sit on the front line during the civil rights movement, and I know people who are generational inheritors of that history, they feel like their family fought so that they don't have to. They're providing bathrooms, they're providing water for people who are participating in protests. They're not putting their bodies on the line. That's a choice that they can make and they should make. But they're supporting the people whose bodies can be on the front line. For folks who are less vulnerable, and this is a choice that me and my partner make, we are less vulnerable than a lot of people, and so we put our bodies on the front line. We have phone numbers of who to call if either of us is detained, and we pass that on to people in our community. So there are ways that you can protect others if you recognize that you hold less precarity, at least visually. And then I just want to, because we are sitting in a space that Jenny offered to us and created for all of us, the ICE escape signs that Jenny has been making from 2006. And I can't emphasize enough that this has been happening for 20 years, if not longer. And that on the opposite side of this wall, if you go out to the street, you can see a display of the historical signs that Jenny has been making since 2006. This is the ICE escape sign that we made for this exhibition for Essex Market, and it is meant to be a tool for people who are vulnerable and who are allies of the vulnerable. And it is as simple as planning how you would protect somebody in one space, or how you might protect yourself in one space. So I just wanted to offer because I'm a double Virgo and a pragmatist. I just wanted to offer some real things that people can do that don't ask you to do much more than you're already doing in your life, and don't ask any of us to assume that you are not already in a vulnerable position for various reasons. So there's just a few.
I just wanted to say about this kind of project though,
Yeah.
that one of the things that everybody here is so brilliant at is making your art. And one of the only ways I can do that kind of sign, for instance, is that it's art. It's kind of camouflaged as something, it's using art as a camouflage. And I've seen, for instance, in these clips you see on Instagram of people standing up to the immigration police, they may start singing, or they may play music at them or something like that. There's a kind of ways in which people are figuring out.
Throw sandwich.
Yeah, throw
Yeah.
yeah. But I encourage everybody to use your art, your words, your whatever, your paintings to tell these stories and talk about resistance, and we're going to end with this reading of Daniel's, the words that Daniel wrote to describe the prison labor that he experienced where he was making mattresses in a Corecraft mattress factory. That was the reason that we made these two mattress artworks. They carry his whole narrative, so we're going to read it out. And I think you're gonna share it with people. Do you want to just point to the people who?
So I say to the readers who are going to read this, follow me, because you're next.
Do you guys want a mic or?
No, that's
You
okay.
feel good? Okay.
I'm in the space of incredible people.
Wonderful.
So we know we have a job to do. We understand we read the room, we understand what's going on here. Follow me. When I was sent to prison, I was eager to get involved in anything that would keep me out of my cell and around the people I considered my friends. Word quickly went around as to what jobs to stay away from when we were called to the program committee. The program committee was responsible for delegating the various jobs in the prison to the qualified inmates. If one didn't have a high school diploma, he was relegated to low-paying jobs like porter or mess hall. These were mindless jobs that paid very little. If, though, you managed to acquire an education before your criminal career, you were able to get a better paying job that paid marginally more.
Those jobs were industry jobs where you worked for Corecraft. Corecraft is a multi-million-dollar corporation that uses prison labor to make all sorts of products, ranging from signage to furniture, license plates to cleaning supplies. Corecraft also produced inmate and officer uniforms. The area of the industry that I found myself in was the mattress shop. We were responsible for bedding production that would be distributed throughout all state institutions.
I, along with other mattress shop hopefuls, was trained by a really old white guy who smoked and cursed a lot. His name was Mr. Fitzpatrick. We called him Fitz. He taught us how to thread the sewing machine and get it started. We were stationed at different areas on the production floor. It was an assembly line operation. Anyone who was an adept at working the sewing machine was charged with supplying the floor with cotton filler that came in huge 150-pound bales. We had a running joke that whoever had to go pick cotton better hurry up before massa come.
We playfully referred to one another as slaves from the Motisa tribe, Every day was a test to get our supervisor to give us a favorable evaluation. That way, we would be in line to get a raise. The pay scale was as follows: 16 cents, 22 cents, 26 cents, 32 cents, 35 cents, 38 cents, 42 cents, 45 cents. We constantly teased one another about brown nosing to get a raise. And to think we were doing this all for pennies on the dollar. Anyone who showed the slightest amount of initiative was accused of being a bootlicker.
Over time, I became quite good at my job, earning certifications on various machines in that shop. I even reached a 45-cent pay grade. I was rich. I could spend up to $55 in the commissary and not have to eat in the mess hall. With an entire shop of 50 people, all vying for a higher pay grade, we were perfectly programmed to produce these products at a high rate, 1,000 mattresses per day. We were willing participants in keeping Corecraft a multi-million-dollar corporation. They were in some boardroom somewhere where we were in the prison spending their pennies in their commissary.
Even though I was always aware of slavery, I put those thoughts on the back burner because the need for me to do my life bid as comfortably as possible was ever before me. I never forgot how to use the sewing machine either. It's like it was ingrained into my muscle memory